for nightmares or a scary movie. In Connecticut, we've heard a lot more about carbon monoxide poisoning since 3 children died in Suffield last month. And there have been other reports, like the one yesterday in Bristol, where a family got sick from deadly gas. What can you do to ensure that this doesn't happen to you? Well, with us this morning is Fire Information Officer Ed Flynn from the New Haven Fire Department and Dr. William Beckett. Gentlemen, thanks very much for being with us. First of all, let's start with you, Doctor. The symptoms can be symptoms that you could probably write off pretty easily. I mean, dizziness and things like that. Go through the symptoms for us.
Well, the early warning symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning are things like headache, dizziness, skin flushing, disorientation, nausea, fatigue.
Things associated with the flu bug or anything else, right?
That's exactly right.
Now, isn't it also true that different people would get these at different times? For example, 2 adults and a child in the same room, the child could get these symptoms and the adults might not.
That's right. Some people may be more susceptible, and it depends on how long they've been in the room and how high the levels are.
And that would make you perhaps even more likely to write it off as just a bug or something, right? Because I feel fine, but here the youngster feels terrible.
That can happen, that's right.
And I guess it also could happen with pets, too. The dog or the cat could get very, very ill. And you might say, well, put him outside, and he'll be fine. And he is. And that could be an early sign as well, couldn't it?
Absolutely right, yeah.
And again, people are confused when we probably shouldn't use the word gas because they think it's something you can smell. For example, in the natural gas that heats some homes and what have you, that smell is put in there by the gas company, so we'll be able to tell when it's leaking. This doesn't have any naturally occurring odor of anything, of any kind whatsoever.
That's right. By itself, carbon monoxide gas is totally colorless and odorless, as you mentioned. Unless it's with some other kind of smoke that you smell, you can be fatally poisoned and never even know it.
And without being too morbid, what exactly does it do to the body, carbon monoxide?
Carbon monoxide binds to the hemoglobin in the blood and displaces oxygen. So the higher your levels get, the less oxygen your organs get, and you can asphyxiate as a result of the poisoning.
Right. Oxygen is important. I mean, that's why we breathe. It's to oxygenate the blood. Right.
All your cells need oxygen.
And this constantly goes on day and night. This is an involuntary reflex, as they say. It's always going on. And if you're taking that in, it'll remove the oxygen from your blood, and it can cause severe, what happens? You could have some sort of a lapse and then all of a sudden go into coma or what have you.
That's right. Any of the organs can fail as a result.
All right, Ed, let's bring you into the discussion here and talk about what's important in terms of prevention to make sure this stuff isn't occurring in our home. What do you at the New Haven Fire Service recommend to us?
The very first thing, Mark, is that every homeowner, every occupant in the home should make sure that their furnace is serviced on an annual basis. You should also make sure that your vent pipes and flue pipes to your chimney aren't obstructed or blocked. You should make sure that if you have a fireplace, you should check it for any structural damage, both the fireplace and the chimney. And most of all, your house must have adequate ventilation for all these systems to work properly. We're also looking at people who sometimes tend to bring in charcoal barbecues into the home.
That's a no-no.
That is a definite no-no. And another area you should be concerned with is people who warm their cars up in the garage and do not remove the car from the garage, but keep it warmed up. You are emitting carbon monoxide fumes. Right.
So it's okay to warm up the car with the garage doors open, presumably. But or do you recommend backing the car actually out of the garage to be safe?
I would back it out of the garage for a couple of reasons. If your garage door is open and your garage is underneath your home, like many are, you're going to have a wind
blowing it right back in.
And number two is if you have any damage in your exhaust system, the fumes are going to be emitting right in that garage. Get the car out, let it warm up outside.
Well, now, we in the news media didn't create this. This happened. This was a terrible tragedy in Suffield, and we had to report it, obviously. But has the reporting of that incident in Suffield and subsequent ones to it, has that increased the traffic on your phone lines at your department?
Absolutely, and it's good because now there is a greater awareness in the entire state on the effects of carbon monoxide poisoning. Another area we should be concerned about is there are people who will use their gas ovens and their gas jets to heat their house.
Right.
Once that is done, you are compromising the oxygen in the home. The oxygen level reduces, it's being burnt up in those gas, in the fire, and you're going to have carbon monoxide poisoning.
Now, there are also people who supplement by, well, a lot of people have wood stoves and also kerosene heaters, but now they're illegal in New Haven, is that right?
Kerosene heaters are a no-no. Since 1962, kerosene heaters have been illegal in New Haven. Not only New Haven, West Haven, I believe Hartford also.
I believe Hartford also has a ordinance against kerosene heaters. But it is safe to have a wood stove if it's serviced properly, if it's vented properly, and you take care of that at least once a year. And once a year is enough, I presume, right?
It should be enough.
Okay.
It's important that if you experience a problem during your heating season, call your heating fuel dealer immediately.
Doctor, how many times do you think in the course of the average year that these symptoms are ruled off as just some simple bug?
Unfortunately, I think they're commonly dismissed because they're nonspecific.
Right.
We know that carbon monoxide is the most frequent cause of fatal poisonings in the United States. This has been true for many years. And so it's a high level of suspicion and awareness is important.
Right.
Where the awareness is high, a blood test can confirm whether it is or is not carbon monoxide poisoning.
I suspect that this is misdiagnosed many times by people, just like food poisoning. People get upset. I mean, now, just one, we only have a half a minute left here. You recommend these CO detectors? Is that a good idea if you can get your hands on one to have in the home? The carbon monoxide
I think
detector?
that's an individual choice.
Right.
If someone takes care of all the precautions and they're aware of their whole home, their heating system, and everything else, it may not be necessary.
If you went through that list, you probably don't need one.
Exactly.
Gentlemen, thanks very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
All right, and now let's turn back to Janice.
New Haven Fire Chief Ed Flynn says one of the biggest problems they see related to gas grills is how the gas cylinder is stored.
A lot of people like to store them inside. You're not supposed to store them inside. What happens is you get a leak, you have a gas heater downstairs, or maybe your dryer, you get a leak and you end up with a fire in the basement. We've had several of those over the past few years.
Chief Flynn says the bottom line to gas grill safety is just to use common sense.
Read your instructions on your gas grill. Check your connections. Put some soapy water on there to make sure there's no leaks.
And of course, never leave it unattended. To put this in perspective, the State Fire Marshal's office says there were a number of fires last year involving propane gas grills. The estimated damage, 500,000.
Cause thousands of fires every year. As Action News reporter Keith Coons tells us, manufacturers are being forced to make the lighters safer.
They can cost as little as $1.50, but a lighter in the hands of a small child is a serious safety threat. Just ask any parent who smokes.
We don't keep them in our house anymore because of that. We use the roll ones because she knows how to do them. I'm afraid she's going to burn down our house or something.
Kids these days are not dumb. They see, growing up strike anything, they will follow an adult.
It was back on February 15th when a 3-year-old girl playing with a lighter that was shaped like a handgun ignited a fire at this building downtown. It caused $160,000 in damages. Authorities say nationwide 20,000 fires are started by kids with lighters, including this one in Portland last fall that left 50 homeless. But starting tomorrow, the Consumer Product Safety Council is requiring nearly all lighters made in America to be child resistant. Lighting up will no longer be just a flick. It requires turning a tiny switch in the correct position.
Once you take your finger off this lighter, she's now back in the locking position because the latch is locked underneath. So it's a very simple device which can be compromised.
Adults will get the hang of it if they have to use it, but it will, in fact, be a deterrent, an important deterrent.
But Flynn cautions the new lighters still can cause sparks, which attract the attention of small children. Milford-based Bic Corporation has been making child-resistant lighters since 1992. Most people believe the safety measures are a step in the right direction.
They've done it with the medicines, and it's proven it's helped. It's got to help. If you save one child, it's worth it.
In New Haven, Keith Kuntz, Action News 8.
'Tis the season to be jolly, but behind the festivities there is danger lurking. This could all too easily turn into this.
People who are enjoying the holiday, they're disturbed by what they hear when there's sad news, and it will happen somewhere in the country. There will be sad news because of a Christmas tree fire, and there will be deaths.
Deaths that could easily be prevented with just a few precautions. First, when selecting a tree, make sure it's freshly harvested, say no more than a few days before bringing it home. The needle should be supple, not brittle. Rub your fingers across the base. A fresh tree will be sticky with resin. Place the tree in a stand that holds at least a gallon of water and water it every day. Also, be careful of what you put on the tree. Make sure lights are UL tested and in proper working order.
If you have lights on a tree that have cracked sockets, loose wiring, it can cause a short circuit.
Trees aren't the only holiday greenery that pose safety risks. Plants like mistletoe and holly are poisonous if ingested, especially the berries. But the beautiful poinsettia has an undeserved reputation.
There's been lots of rumors and legends that they're poisonous, but they're basically fine.
What's not fine, though, is what many of us do with this.
Never, never
burn Christmas wrappings in the fireplace. A lot of heat is built up, and then when the flame's built up, they'll take that box and the wrappings and they'll suck it up right through the chimney, and you may end up with a chimney fire.
And when it comes to holiday gift giving, a smoke detector may not be the most glamorous of gifts, but firefighters say this could mean the difference between a holiday filled with joy or one filled with sorrow.
Get yourself a merry little Christmas.
I'm Kay Kim for Action News 8.